what's everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Transformers Shatterglass Starscream. Here he is, and I think he looks really cool. Before we take a look at him, let's take a look at the packaging. So here we have a nice artwork shot of Starscream, the name of course, and the picture there. We have Shatterglass, we have a nice Shadow Decepticon symbol, we have Transformers. On the side we have another shot of artwork of him, another Shadow Decepticon symbol, of course, the name again. And on the back, he transforms into 22 steps. There's two product shots there of the Tetrajet mode and the robot mode, of course. And there is a nice little brief bio there, which I can read for you. It's also in several different languages. It says, Starscream is a brilliant Decepticon scientist, grimly invents new weapons with the hope of one day bringing peace and an end to the war. So, very cool packaging. Of course, it does come with a comic book. I did show that in the unboxing video, so if you haven't seen the unboxing video, make sure you go check that out. I also did do a short little brief video on all the comic books, because I recently put Starscream's comic book up, and I showed all 5 of them together. So if you want to see a really cool display of all of the 5 comic books that came in Wave 1, make sure you check that video out as well. And I think that's pretty much it for the beginning intro, so let's get into the details of Transformers Shatterglass Starscream. Here we have Transformers Shatterglass Starscream. Let's take a look at the details. We're going to start at the very top. Here are these big pieces here. Not really sure what you would call those, but they're done in red and white on the back. For the head here, done really well in this nice creamy white for the main helmet section. We have some nice gray for the face. We do have some nice blue for the eyes. You can make out the nose, of course, a little bit of a frown there, and some blue on the back. Some nice red, black, and white for the shoulders there. Lots of really nice sculpting and detailing on this figure, just everywhere. We have some more black and white for the hands. We do have some really nice blue there for the chest. It looks very cool. I really do like how it aligns perfectly, because part of it is on the waist and part of it is on the chest. I really do like how that can align perfectly, and that shade of blue looks really good. Really nice red for that Decepticon symbol. I do kind of wish maybe it was a little bit bigger on camera. From my view, I think it's kind of too small to even show, but in hand I think it looks pretty good, but maybe it could be a little bit bigger. We do have some nice fan detailing there done in black. I think that looks pretty good. Lots of detailing on top. Around the head, that looks pretty good. For the waist/crotch section, we have some white and red, of course. Some black for the knees. Some more black there. Some more red on the feet and white all on the leg. And of course, for the main base of the leg, it's really just done in white with lots of sculpting and detailing. And I do like how they kept the little pegs for explosions and blaster pieces. I think that's pretty cool. And of course on the back we do have the wings. Of course the main base is done in white. We have some black, some gunmetal gray for this main booster section, which of course is mostly for the Tetrajet mode, but still pretty cool to see in the robot mode. Some nice red for the Decepticon symbols, some more red at the top, and these little points there, but I think that looks pretty cool. And some more blue and red there, and some more black at this little venting section there. So overall, the details of this figure look really cool, and of course, I think this is probably my favorite of the Wave 1 of Shatterglass by far. Just a really cool figure. Yes, there is no molding changes, but I just think it looks so cool how the color scheme is really just based off of Jetfire, which I will bring out in just a second for comparison, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Let's take a look at the accessories, and then of course we'll get into some comparison. Now taking a look at the accessories, of course, he comes with the 2 classic null rays, so here is one of them, and of course they are exactly identical. Done in white with a nice gray wash over it, lots of sculpting. There's a scope, of course, nice barrel. Of course, you could plug in a blaster piece if you wanted to. And here is the comparison with the Siege one from Siege Starscream. And they are the exact same sculpts. Of course, this one's gray and this one's white, but still very nice. Very classic no-ray weapon. Of course, you could plug this into the wing, his hands, lots of ports all over. I typically just have it in the shoulder. That's usually how he has his no-rays. I think that looks pretty cool. Again, he comes with 2, so you can have him on both shoulders. And of course, moving on to the best accessory of all, definitely a really cool accessory. There is 2 really cool swords. Very nice blue there. And of course, people are worried about breakage. I'm not. It's pretty thick plastic. I wouldn't be too worried. Of course, you could still be cautious if you want to, but I'm not concerned at all. But still, 2 very cool swords. So there is several options how you could store this. Of course, you could have him dual wield them if you wanted to, or you could connect these together like that, and you can form one really cool big energon blade, which I think is probably my favorite way to store this. I do, in my personal opinion, just wish it was just like this and it couldn't separate. That's just my personal opinion. I don't really think it needs to separate, but it still does look pretty cool having him dual wielded. My biggest pet peeve or my biggest annoyance with this sword is that it does not stay together very well. Typically, whenever I have it in his hand, it usually just separates randomly at random times, which is kind of unfortunate. But of course, if you had him stored with both swords in each hand, that would not happen. But still, I'll show you how it looks with him dual wielding. So of course, you could have it in this hand, get this sword, and store it in this hand like this. And then he is definitely ready for battle. I think that looks pretty cool. And of course I can show you with the full combined weapon, which is definitely my favorite look. But again, kind of unfortunate, it tends to separate a lot. Not the worst, it usually stays if you just leave it alone. If you're messing around with it or anything like that, it could separate. But still, I think that looks pretty cool. If you wanted to, you could get this blade to Siege Jetfire, because he does have a blue energon blade like that in the show. Unfortunately, that figure did not include with a blade like that, so if you wanted to, you could give it to that figure. So, very nice. So overall, accessory-wise, I think it's pretty good. I really do think this sword adds a lot to this figure. I'm really glad they included it. It would have been kind of a bummer if they just didn't add any new accessory. That would have been kind of a shame. So now let's move on to some comparisons. For some comparisons, I'm going to start with the Siege Starscream with, of course, Shatterglass Starscream. So as you can see, the figures are the exact same thing, exact same sculpt, of course, just completely new paint apps. Of course, this is more of a lighter side. Of course, this is a heroic Decepticon. This is much more dark and grim because this is a evil Decepticon from the Siege line. Of course, he also does have a really nice brushwork on his legs and arms and chest. And of course, there is some minor new decals or add-ons, like there is some small little minor Decepticon symbols on his wings. This figure does not have them. Of course, he does have a brand new accessory with Shatterglass Starscream. He has that really cool sword. I just didn't want to include that because it does kind of get in the way and can cover up Starscream a little bit. But two very cool figures. Let's move on to some other comparisons. A quick comparison between Transformers Siege Jetfire and Transformers Shatterglass Starscream. So as you can see, the overall design and style is definitely taken off of this figure here. The blue, the black, and the white, and the red definitely takes from this figure, and I think it looks amazing on Shatterglass Starscream here. I think it works really well. I think they do look very cool next to each other. Of course, you could get Transformers Shatterglass Jetfire and put them next to each other. They could be scientist buddies, or they could be enemies, because of course you could change that symbol on Jetfire's chest and he could be a evil Autobot or a heroic Decepticon. I think there is one minor missed opportunity with this figure here. I really do wish it maybe came with a battle mask, kind of like this figure did here. Again, that's just my opinion. Of course, some people might not want the battle mask, some people do. Who knows? Let me know. Would you like a battle mask with this figure here? Let me know in the comments. So let's move on to another comparison. Another quick comparison between Transformers Shatterglass Starscream, Transformers Shatterglass Blur, and Goldbug. So these three figures are very good. I do think you should highly get these. I think they're very good figures. Probably the one that's not as good is probably Transformers Shatterglass Blur. I think it's probably the least interesting of the 5 figures of this Shatterglass Wave 1, because it really does not offer a lot of new things from the Studio Series Blur. I know I don't have that figure, but I have watched several reviews. The accessories are the exact same, of course. Yes, it is a brand new head sculpt, but it is still quite similar. The only thing different is, of course, some minor new paint apps, and of course there is an eye patch with a few scratches, but these two figures have a brand new head sculpt, and this one has a brand new accessory, which I think really adds to the figure. So out of the 5, I would say don't get this one if you're not a completionist. If you're a completionist like me, then just get it and be satisfied with 4 of the 5 are really damn good figures. No, in any way, this is not a bad figure, but do be aware, he has some pretty loose joints. So pretty good figures, but again, Blur, I would say, is 7 out of 10, I would say. So let's move on to another comparison. Last quick comparison, here we have Transformers Shatterglass Starscream with Transformers Shatterglass Megatron. So two really cool heroic Decepticons next to each other. I think they do look very nice together. They do match with the really nice blue and some red and some white here and there. Of course, no, they do not have brand new molded pieces. They do have some really cool new accessories like the shield and the really cool wing pieces. And of course, in Starscream's case, the really new a really cool sword. So yeah, two figures that I highly recommend. For some people, they won't like it because, of course, these two molds are very overused. There's 10 versions of the Siege Seeker mold, and I don't even know how many of the Siege Megatron mold, but I know it's a lot. So some people might not want it. To others, they might like it because, yes, there is a brand new mode with Megatron. He transforms into a really cool jet, not a tank. But if you want that tank, it still does do that, but officially in the instructions, it does have a brand new jet mode. So two very good figures, highly recommend them. Now let's move on to transformation and articulation. For articulation, I did move the wings back so I can show you the articulation better, and they're out of the way. So let's start at the very top. So the head can rotate all the way around on a ball joint. The arm is on a butterfly joint, so it can hinge forward. There's also a rotation here, it can move out and in. There is a swivel, double jointed elbow. There is also a swivel at the hand. Pretty good. For the waist, it cannot do a full 360, which is unfortunate because this big back piece here, but it can really just rock side to side, so not the greatest, but I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker. So the legs can kick that far forward. There's also a knee bend. There's also a swivel to a full 360 degree. And for kicking back, not the greatest because this big back piece, so that's kind of unfortunate. There's also an ankle pivot to a minor degree, but still not the deal breaker, of course. So overall, pretty good articulation for the main body. For the wings, there is a swivel here, so you can do kind of a dynamic pose. You can use this hinge here to move back and forth. That's pretty much it for articulation for the wings, and of course the main body section. So overall, pretty good articulation. Of course, it's the exact same thing as the other Siege Seeker molds, so nothing surprising or different or crazy. Overall, pretty good. Let's get into transformation. Transformation is the exact same thing as the other, of course, 9 Siege Seeker versions of this mold, so let's get right into it. So first, you're going to go to the arms and just open this up. You can move the hand in. You can now use this hinge here, collapse this in, close that up. Of course, do the same thing on the other side. Open that up, move the hand in, use this hinge, close it up like that. There we go. And then what you're going to want to do is untab these sections here. So as you can see, there is 2 slots there, 2 tabs. That's how that's connected. You can then use that tab and the slot in the back of the head and connect that together. And then you can hinge these pieces down like that, and there is of course a tab and a slot, and a tab and a slot, and then these will just connect together to form the main nose or front of the Tetrajet, and I think that looks pretty cool. So now we can just hinge this head back, and it does not fully collapse in there, it just kind of stays there. You can then bring this front little panel or chest panel forward, and no, it has not untabbed. I know several versions of this mold have had a really big problem with this untabbing. I have not had any problems with this so far, so I think that's pretty good. We can then rotate the entire waist around. You can then collapse the feet like that, and then of course these little spring sections here, and they will just collapse to where you can use this slot, this tab, and it will go right into that slot in the waist or crotch section. Like that. And then of course do the same thing on the other side, so this spring-loaded section will just collapse in, just like that. And then we can kind of start to put things together. So we can use this butterfly joint to where there is tabs and slots on the inside of the arm to where that will just tab together. Do the same thing on the other side. Just tab that together like that. And there we go. So there we go. And then we can finish the top half. So use this hinge, this big hinge there, hinge that down, and then there is some tabs and some slots, and those will connect together. So just like that. Connect everything together. There we go. And then you're going to want to use this section here, collapse this down, and there is a tab. And then that will just go right in there, just like that. And there is slots on the inside of this panel and tabs there, and that will just collapse right into place. And there we have the Tetrajet's fully complete. Hopefully I didn't go too fast. Of course, I knew this transformation by heart because I have other 9 figures of this mold, so kind of got it down. But overall, transformation is pretty easy. Let's get into the details and, of course, how all the accessories store and some comparisons. Details of the Tetrajet mode. Let's take a look at them. So I think this is probably one of the most simplistic designs or patterns of the Tetrajets because there's no brushwork on it. It's more simplistic. There's really just red, some white, and blue, and a little bit of black. I think it overall looks pretty good. So there's some red at the front, some white, of course, for the main nose section of the Tetrajet. We have some nice blue for the window, some black there. Some more red on top, some gunmetal gray on the back. This is the chest panel, so all the details that I showed earlier for the chest of the robot are visible, but still I think it's pretty cool on the back. Some more nice red on the very back, nice tip there, the wing, nice Decepticon symbol on both sides. Of course, on the bottom, I think it cleans up pretty nicely. These are the legs, so you can see a little bit of kibble, but I think it overall cleans up quite nicely and streamlined. So overall, a very, very cool Tetrajet. In my opinion. Again, very streamlined, no brushwork. I think it looks pretty good. So, storing the accessory-wise, of course, there is a lot of ports on this figure. I typically will just kind of plug them in right here, because then you can use this port for the sword. So we can just get this gun right here, just plug that into place. And I have not really thought of a way you can store the combined sword yet. So there could be some secret way where you can maybe kind of shove it in there. I don't know. All I know is you can separate them like this. And then, of course, there is that port there. And that can just plug inside like this. And there you go. Of course, get the other one. And just plug that in there like that. And there we have the fully equipped Tetrajets with the sword and, of course, the null rays. And not really sure why you would want the swords on the front. Maybe you could kind of spear some Transformer if you're, shooting off into space. I don't know, something like that. But still, I think it looks pretty cool. Of course, if you have some flight stand or action figure stand, you could have them flying into battle in a stop motion or something like that. That would look pretty cool. So overall, a really good looking Tetrajet. Let's get into a quick comparison and then, of course, some final thoughts. For a quick comparison, here we have Transformers Shatterglass Starscream with Transformers Siege Starscream. So as you can see, this is more battle-worn, a lot more darker colors, heavy colors. Of course, this is more of a streamlined, calm colors, more bold colors on this one, but mold-wise, exactly the same thing, of course. This is a brand new added accessory, the sword, but of course the null rays are stored the exact same way. Transformation is the exact same thing. Of course, there's some new decals. The Decepticon symbols are up higher. Of course, on this one, the Decepticon symbols are on the lower part of the wing, but 2 figures that are very cool, 2 Tetrajets that are very, very cool. In my opinion, of course, I think I have way too many Seekers. I need to stop. They need to stop making them. But I'm really glad I can have this one. I do have one complaint with the Tetrajets that unfortunately with mine, I don't know if this is just my copy or if it's everyone's copy. As you can see, it does not seem to fully tab in like the Siege one where it's fully compressed. There is a little gap there, but I think there is a bigger gap with this one. I do not want to push it too hard to where a stress mark could happen. I think it's just part of the molds because inside there is where the head lies, and I don't think you compress it anymore. I've actually looked at the instructions. I thought maybe I was doing something wrong, but that's just how it is. If you have either of these and that's how yours is, where it cannot fully compress, let me know in the comment section below, or maybe there's some secret hack or something you can do to where it can compress fully. It doesn't bother me too much because, of course, it's on the back, not the front, so not a big drawback in my opinion. So now, let's get into some final thoughts of this review. With the final thoughts, let's talk about the Tetrajet. I think it overall is pretty much perfect. I really only have one complaint. Let's just start with the complaint because it's very minor and just, of course, one. I think I really do wish that it could tab together better in the back. I did show it previously in the comparison segments that there is a small minor gap in the back where there is the boosters. Again, a very minor complaint. You can barely see it, and of course it's on the back, not the front. I would be much more bothered if it was much more visible, of course, on the very front of the Tetrajet. So without out with the complaint out of the way, let's get into all the pros of this figure. So starting with the Tetrajet, I think it's just amazing. I really do like how you can store, of course, the no rays and the swords. I'm not really sure in any situation where Starscream would be flying with swords sticking out of the wings. Don't really understand that, but I think it looks pretty cool for photography and, of course, videos. I think it looks pretty cool. I really do like the gunmetal gray on the boosters. That looks really cool. Of course, you could get some blaster pieces there, and he could be flying off some really cool shots and stop motions. I actually have done several stop motions on him with that, so definitely check out all the stop motions I have posted for this figure. I think they do really, really cool. Transformation-wise, it's pretty simple. I really just know it by heart, of course, because I have the other 9 versions of this mold, and it's just pretty down simple and easy. I think it can be a little bit fiddly at times. I do kind of wish maybe it was a little bit easier to separate these pieces here. Transformation from the Tetrajet to the robot can be a little hard when separating the nose piece here. It really is hard to pry, so if you're ever transforming it, be careful. Do not stress it too much, because if you stress it too much, there could be a stress mark, or the tabs on the inside could break. So just be, patient and calm. Just, carefully split them apart. It can be a little tight and annoying, so just be careful and calm. I don't like it either. It's annoying. Just, again, be patient and calm. Again, transformation from robot to Tetrajet is pretty easy. Moving on to the robot, I think the robot man is pretty much perfect. I really don't have any complaints. I really do like how the big chest piece does not fall off. I actually transformed, of course, Siege Starscream for comparison, and that panel popped off like 3 times in just one time transforming it, so that is kind of a shame. Definitely improvement with this figure. Of course, there's just that one drawback with this back piece, and that's really it. I really do like the swords. This is really just a complaint about the sword, not the figure, of course. I wish the sword stayed together better. Of course, you can combine it and separate it. I like the combine for more, in my opinion. It doesn't stay together the best if you're moving it around and fiddling with it. If you just leave it alone, it's fine. If you're just leaving it on a shelf, it's fine. But if you, mess around with it or, pose it around, it might separate. Of course, I think it looks pretty cool when he dual wields them, in my opinion. But in my just personal opinion, if I were to design this figure, if I could, I would have just had one sword that doesn't separate, just one really cool big sword. I would have been perfectly fine with that. I really do like the no rays. They're really simple, very G1 accurate, very G1-esque feeling. Overall, a really cool figure. I think there is a minor missed opportunity because, of course, you can definitely tell all this color, the color scheme and style is really based heavily off the Siege Jetfire. I think it would have been really cool if this figure came with a battle mask. I think probably why this figure was not included with that mask is because there'd be nowhere to store it if you didn't want it on his face. Of course, they'd have to do a brand new sculpt. Of course, they couldn't just get the Jetfire one because that would be way too big for this small head sculpt. And probably it's the main thing with storage, because if you don't want it on his face, there would really be nowhere to store it without just having to put it off to the side. And I know people don't like doing that. Me, it doesn't bother me, because if they came with a mask, I would probably leave it on him the entire time because it'd just be so cool. Let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section below. Is this your favorite of the Shatterglass line, and is it your favorite Siege Seeker version? I think it probably is. It might be tied with Skywarp, because Skywarp has always been my favorite Seeker. He just looks amazing. I do think they should probably had made more of these Siege Seeker molds available, because I think the majority of these figures were exclusives, or Amazon exclusives, or Hasbro Pulse exclusives, something like that. There was just like 2 mainline ones, which is kind of unfortunate. But again, let me know which one you like the most of this version, and again, let me know which one your favorite of the Shatterglass Wave 1 is. This by far is my favorite. I think I probably will do a ranking video soon, so you probably do already know which one my favorite is, but of course there's several other slots that I have not told you yet, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.